Good morning, race fans, and welcome to the Monday after. This is NASCAR Inside the Race post Nashville live on YouTube. And live is the key. We got some fans in the chat. Fire away. Send us your questions. A lot to unload. Ryan Blaney, it was not a question of if, just when. And it was Sunday night was the win. 12 car goes to victory lane. And Hocevar, we're going to talk Hocevar, the Hocevar camera. I said we should have one on Prime. The kid is everywhere. He's fast, but he is controversial. We're going to break Carson Hocevar down. The king of the restarts, Blaney and Byron, is going to be part of the show. Denny Hamlin gets fastest lap of the race for the second week in a row. So speed out of 11. And help me break it down, a couple friends going to join the show. I got my buddy from NBC Sports, my analyst in the booth for the final 14 races. The mayor, Jeff Burton, is joining me today. And my buddy from MRN, Todd Gordon, is joining me as well. Burton, Todd, so we'll tip of the hat to buy. I don't want to ignore Blaney's win, right? Because they're very hard to get. I want to move along quickly to the Hocevar conversation. But let's tip our hat to Blaney really quick. Jeff, I'll start with you. The reason I'm kind of moving along is because I'm not surprised. 12's been lights out, tons of DNF, tons of speed, great off the truck, great, lots of good decisions, pit stops. We're going to break all that down. I guess quickly, thoughts on Blaney? Any surprise that he went to victory lane?
Yeah, no surprise for me. You know, they've had great speed all year. They've he's hit everything but the lottery on the racetrack. Not all of it his fault, but they just had one of those years where we've all been there, right? You love you have the speed, you love you can put your car up front, but you hate that you can't finish it, and that's really where this team was. But this is one of the most dangerous teams in racing. Their speed is consistent, and now with the win, now that just takes so much pressure off of everything. And now they can just move forward and quit looking backwards at, oh my gosh, look at all the bad stuff we're having. So no surprise for me whatsoever. And I'll be surprised if they don't get many more between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, Todd. I mean, I thought, look, really, I'm not sure what they did wrong. I think they hit all aspects. If this was a football game, all three phases were working.
Yeah, I think the only thing they could do better is maybe qualify better on Saturday. Yeah. They had really good pace come practice time. But that's kind of been, and Ryan talked about that in his post race, that he doesn't feel like he gets a great qualifying lap. That's something he's got to work on. But Hassler, the strategy piece, I feel like they did the right thing going long, put themselves in a position to take two tires. They were competitive on two, like you talked about, Jeff. I mean, they've been the fastest car at a handful of racetracks this year, probably 5 or 6 of them, and not executed all the way through. They executed this whole race, put it all together, and I do believe this is a weight off their shoulders. I would expect to see them win at least one and probably more than one in this summer swing.
On Prime pre-race, I told the puppets, yes, the puppets, for the second week in a row, I was in a bar serving puppets some beer. There it is. Listen, I told the puppets, this is a concrete riddle. That's what I labeled Nashville to be, is a concrete riddle. And I will tell you that it was everything I expected to be, which is really the unknown. Stage 1, green. Stage 3, green. Stage 2, chaos. I want to focus on the chaos. I want to focus on Carson Hocevar. A lot has been talked about. Let's just show the incident, okay? On board, Carson Hocevar down the backstretch, the 47. Big arc into the corner, no doubt. In my mind, this is clear as day. So I want to jump into this conversation first. Before we talk about Hocevar, wrecks happen for really 3 reasons in my mind. Mechanically, flat tire or something breaks on the car and somebody wrecks. A mistake, because guess what? What these guys are doing is hard, right? Alex Bowman had one. He overdrove the corner, got loose, junked the 4, right? Didn't mean to, but junked him. Or frustration. I don't know if this was frustration out of Hocevar, but it was a mistake. Where I am sitting, this is a mistake. He runs the 47 over from behind. Jeff, you have wrecked people, and you have been wrecked. I know that. Fact. Where do you sit? As the only one of the 3 that has done what Hocevar is currently doing, where do you sit on this situation?
Well, first of all, I think with any driver that is in the microscope for how he drives in regard to his aggression, you have to look at, it's hard, but you have to take a step back and look at each situation differently. But that gets very difficult to do. When one guy, and lately it's been Carson, it wasn't that long ago, it was someone else. And before that, it was someone else, right? We've seen, this has been in the history of time. This is what NASCAR racing has been. And to me, what this wreck looked like is that track position is so important. It was very difficult to pass. and especially as it got cooler, the bottom lane became the lane. And Carson saw this. He's like, hey, I believe the 47 is going to stay in the upper lane. And he comes down. And when it started happening, that was when Carson had a decision to make. And Carson's decision was, I'm in this spot. I'm not going to give. But right here, Carson, if you stop it, just look at this from a driver's perspective. If you're Carson Hocevar, you're like, okay, I've turned. I'm showing Ricky that I want this line. I have a little more speed than Ricky. And right now, Carson's thinking, this is my spot. I'm showing him I want it. All right, when you roll it, now we can roll it. You see, now stop it. You see, now the facts on the ground changed. He is coming down. He believes this is his spot. At this point, Carson has a decision to make. I can avoid this. I can live to fight another lap. I can cut him some slack, and he decides not to. And that split-second decision is from, I got to get this position. I got to get it right now. I cannot wait. And around goes Ricky, and Ricky's day is done. So those decisions get made in a millisecond. And Carson's decision was, I'm not cutting him slack. Ricky's decision was, I'm ahead of Carson. I'm going to the bottom of the racetrack. On this situation, I think Ricky didn't do anything wrong. I think that Ricky put his car in a position that I think 99% of drivers would have done it. The only thing I'll say is you have to recognize who that is behind you. And Carson is not going to cut you any slack. So, again, Carson could have prevented this, and he decided not to. And those are decisions that Carson is going to have to live with. But his team and he seem to be willing to live with him. They seem to be, hey, we're going to let him be Carson. His owner has supported him. Yeah. His speed is there. And so, Carson will have to make these decisions. And as of to date, more times than not, Carson makes the decision to do what's best for him, which I sort of applaud that part of it. But there's times where you have to work with, in a 400-mile race, you have to work with the people around you. 300-mile race, a 500-mile race, you have to be able to do that. But this car on that racetrack, you can't separate how hard it was to pass and that being part of the decision.
Well, I will say this. I learned a little something about Carson. He had a conversation with Carl Edwards on the Prime pre-race show, and he basically said, hey, I've looked at a lot of these older drivers who talk about things they wish they would have done different early in their career, and I hear a lot of them say they left some stuff on the racetrack. And that was kind of unveiling to me. I'm like, man, I kind of see where his mindset is. The other thing I will say is these fans, they kind of move it to a personal situation. I like Carson. I think he's great for the sport. I think he's exciting. He's authentic. He has a great personality. But that doesn't affect what I judge on the racetrack. I have this conversation with drivers all the time. Like, when you sign up, when you put the fire suit on and the helmet on, you are a professional athlete. Jeff and I, when we go to the TV booth, Todd, when you're on the radio, you get criticized more than a normal person because you're a media member. That's what you sign up for. If I didn't like it, if I didn't like what people say about me on X or on Instagram, then I shouldn't be in the TV booth. Well, guess what? The same works when you sit behind the steering wheel. You are a professional athlete. I'm not judging the man. I'm judging the man's actions as a race car driver. This isn't real life. This is sport. I think he's a great young man, great for the sport. Buy his T-shirt, cheer him on. Or buy Ricky Stenhouse's T-shirt and boo Hocevar. I'm okay with either. I didn't like what Hocevar did on the racetrack because I'm with Jeff. I didn't like it because I think it hurts his chances down the road at some point. I think it was an enemy at lap 107. If that's for third with 4 to go or 14 to go or 25 to go, I probably could look past it a little more. I just struggle with the context. Let's also remind everyone, Jeff reminds me of this. I went to Nashville, hung out with my kid. He's 21. Carson Hocevar is basically 9 months older than my son. So my son basically just wrecked Ricky Stenhouse, a 21-year-old kid. The kid, Carson Hocevar, is 22 years old. Thank goodness every dumb thing I did at 22 wasn't on NASCAR on Prime and say, hey, world, talk about what I did dumb at 22 years old, right? Like that's what happens. Let's hear from Hocevar. He had a great interview on Prime. He also had another interview on Pit Road. D-Lo, fire which one up? Whichever one you want to play first.
I haven't seen the replay. I mean, I've seen a bunch of people just kind of do that same sort of move and get shipped, and I think he was the only one to wreck, or for me to wreck him, and maybe there's one more, but feel like that was just a common move with how big of a run I had, but I didn't see it. I'm sure he'll want to talk about it. I'll talk about it. We'll look at the replay, but I have no idea until I see it.
That was the prime interview. We have a second interview, and I think it comes after. I think there's a change here. Listen to the demeanor. I think it's starting to swing a little bit here.
I kind of got a run and felt like I was kind of there. I felt like I was there enough, right, to get a call inside and have him just kind of run the middle. Honestly, he probably could have cleared me, so that's just what I expected him to do, and he didn't. And by the time I checked up, I almost spun too. So, yeah, if he wants to talk, I'll be gladly to talk. But, I feel like it's just a product of this, unfortunately. It's just everybody just kind of tries to get there, and, I think there were a bunch of people that got shipped that either didn't rank or did get ranked.
So I said it on the prime post-race, Todd. I'm coming to you next, right? That I feel like there was a chance. All right, so there's an Earnhardt doc out. Jeff, you raced against him. I was just a crew member, right? He's a legend. He's the intimidator, right? I'm not trying to compare anybody to somebody who is literally on the Mount Rushmore of NASCAR. But what people forget a little bit about Earnhardt are all the shots of his arm around that competitor in the garage the next week. And, he would absolutely, what's the famous line? This one says it. I didn't mean to wreck him. I meant to rattle his cage. And what I mean by that is I think there was this strategic defense or diffusing of the situation and all of these things. Earnhardt was bigger than life. Carson Hocevar is a 22-year-old, guy making his 59th start. What I'm saying is, if I'm his crew chief, Todd, let's spin it forward to the seats you and I sit in. I will support his arm on the racetrack. He's my guy. I'm supporting him through and through. But I might have a conversation with what we're doing this week or what we talk about in the media. Could we diffuse it? When Ricky sees these interviews, is Ricky going to be madder or is he going to be happier about what happened on the racetrack?
Yeah, and when I was a crew chief in these situations, because I had one that was fairly spirited as well.
Oh, yes.
In his young career.
You had a couple spirited drivers. I like this.
I always beat the media to my car so that I could have the conversation, and basically I could be the one that has that first conversation that Carson had. Let him get it downloaded. Let him get it kind of processed.
So
kind of point some things back.
Hey, man, let's talk about what we're telling the world out here.
Yes. I would. I mean, Brad Gilley, who co-hosts with me on Sirius, he's watched me have those conversations because he had to wait. But that way I could help that driver process that into a position where they could then be better when they got interviewed. And that's one of those things. It's just, you talked about it. He's 22 years old. All the things that I did at 22, I would hate to have a camera follow me through it. So I think this is just part of the kind of maturation process. And Carson's aggressive, but his aggressiveness has paid off. It'll be interesting in the post race show with Dale and Carl talking about Carl and Dale's incident and the fact that Dale kind of roughed Carl back up because of how Dale raced. It'll be interesting to see if the garage comes back and plays to Carson and how he kind of adapts from that.
Yeah, I think we have that conversation, right, D'Lo? Let's listen to a couple Hall of Famers break this down.
They're out of Carson, Dale.
Well, I hear a guy who doesn't know that he ran in the back of somebody and wrecked them. So, hey, I'll call it like it is. I like Hocevar a lot. Kid's awesome. Ran second tonight. I like his attitude. I like his personality. I like his style. But, I think he could have cut the 47 a break. And he chose not to do that. That's his way that he wants to race. He's not very apologetic about it. A lot of people are going to love that. A lot of people are going to love how he races and how he does his job. And but from what I saw tonight, I think he could have probably gave Ricky an opportunity there and continued to race. And he'll have to hear that side from Ricky, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And he sat up here in the pre-race and said, hey, I'm just going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
No regrets. I'm going to go. I'm going to get it. And there you see it. And I talked about it a little bit, but there is a price. And, man, it hurts. And I've been there, and it's not fun to be on the receiving end of what's coming.
So I love that. I thought that price was important because, let me flip to the positive because I feel like we're piling on for him a little bit. When we talk about up-and-comers, he's a first-round draft pick. I'm going to tell you, Spire Motorsports, they better have their ducks in a row. They better have that contract locked up, whatever it is, because he pushes on the go pedal. If I'm a crew chief, I would much rather be running to the car like Todd did to talk to my driver about how we're going to handle this in the media because we are fast as crap and hitting people versus moping to my car, trying to figure out how we're not going to run 21st again next week. I mean, that is a massive difference. There is nothing like the go pedal. You can't, like, it's magic. And this kid is magic. I heard some quotes out of Luke Lambert, who said he was creative. I love that word. He's creative behind the wheel. He finds speed. So look, I think we all are saying the same thing, right? This isn't shocking that we're having a discussion about a young driver, maybe getting over his head a little bit. And good for the sport. I think that's where I'm going to leave it. Good for the sport that Carson Hocevar is here, because we have more to talk about today than the difficulty of passing at Nashville.
Hey, can I add something real quick here?
Fire.
So I'm pretty sure I remember having these conversations about Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I remember having these conversations about Ty Gibbs. When have these names come up in this regard lately?
Logano.
So,
I mean,
you know what has come up is contract extensions. Still sitting in race cars, still going fast. It wasn't that long ago. I listened to Martin Truex say Joey Logano wasn't winning the war after Martinsville. He won the war. Like when I hear people say, well, the competitors aren't going to let them continue to get by with this, they do. Right. And sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. And if what you just said, Steve, is right. If Carson Hocevar, he's not going to be sitting around looking, hey, am I going to have a seat next year? Am I going to have a seat the year after? He's going to get re-signed somewhere because he's fast. The same way Ty Gibbs is fast. The same way Ross Chastain is fast. And they went through these situations where they were in over their heads. They were trying too hard. They corrected it. This kid can correct it too. And I think he needs to correct it. I think it's going to serve him better if he corrects it. But we're watching the process. And we're watching it live on television. I don't care if he's 21, because I think what you said earlier, I don't care how old he is. I don't care if he's 18. I don't care if he's 21. I don't care if he's 32. Because what you said earlier, when you sign the dotted line, I'm going to be a Cup driver. You're a Cup driver. I don't care how old you are. You're a Cup driver. And that's just how it is. You're a professional athlete, and you're sitting in something that's not this isn't a game. This isn't a game. This is one of the few sports that's not a game. This is dangerous. And so you have an accountability because you're a Cup driver, but you also have the freedom in NASCAR to be who you want to be. That's why we love it. NASCAR's not going to sit him down and say, you shouldn't have done that to Ricky Stenhouse. We're not going to have a conversation with some stewards in the race saying, oh, this should be a 3-grid penalty. That's not what NASCAR is. So does he need to change? In my opinion, I think he needs to change. Is he going to be rewarded for what he's doing? 100%, because he's fast. If he was doing this and running 30th, he would have a problem. But he's doing this and possibly could have won the Coke 600. Had a chance to win this weekend. As long as you're putting your car in position to win, you're going to be in this sport, and you're going to have more opportunities to win.
We're going to circle back around, talk about some other wrecks, but I think we've gone 18 minutes, and we've only mentioned the guy of the hour, which is Ryan Blaney. You talk about stars. This guy has it. He kind of oozes star power. He was in Nashville earlier in the week doing a bunch of appearances. He's on the Netflix show. Him and his wife are they're flashy in the best way. Like, I'm like, man, you want to talk about a group that you want to stand behind? You know, from the quote, which I don't think I'm allowed to stay on the NASCAR, the Ryan Blank and Blaney quote in Netflix season 1, to then becoming a champion, right? Like he is the most non-star acting star in the sport. You want to talk about oozing cool, man? He just kind of he reminds me a little like Matthew McConaughey, right? He just kind of oozes into every room, hanging out. He slid up on the post-race desk last night, had a beer with us, which I love, by the way. Post-race beers, A+ for the celebration. But most importantly, back to what we were talking about, that's all the peripheral. What he is a dang great race car driver at tons of speed, and him and Jonathan Hassler has found a combination of personality that's working. From the minute they unloaded in the first group of practice, I had him circled on the board. But Todd, not only a big win, but called the race good. Break down real quick. Explain to the fans how you thought stage 1 set the stage for the 12 car.
Well, you look at it. They didn't, they had an early, because of the lack of speed last week at Coke 600. They were in group 1 and they went out, I think, 8th. They didn't have a good draw for qualifying. They qualified kind of deep. And I think Jonathan made an aggressive move. He went long. And by going, everybody took stage 1, 90 laps, and they split it right around the middle, somewhere in the 40s, started about 41. They went all the way out to 70 and had decent pace to get there. But by doing that, they put themselves where they kind of sacrificed a little bit of stage 1, although they came back to 8th, but they came down pit road at the end of the stage. They've only got 20 laps on their tires. They could take 2 tires and cycle themselves into track position where they could fight from. And that's where they took control of the race, was a 2-tire call here at the end of stage 1.
It was a great call. For those that don't understand, I'm not going to get in the weeds, but these cars don't start full at the beginning of the race, right? These guys can burn a fuel off. You start practice full, you can run a bunch of laps, burn as much fuel off as you want, decide how much you put in for qualifying. So the fact that Blaney ran long tells me that Hassler and Blaney were already thinking, because of the detriment of where they were going out qualifying, they needed to have an advantage. I know it's in the weeds, but in the weeds is how the race was won. I mean, fast race cars and everything, but those decisions on pit road made a huge difference, right?
To your point, that's a Saturday night decision,
right?
Of where we've qualified, what we've got for speed. At this point, NASCAR changed the ruling, probably 5-6 weeks ago, the verbiage in the rule book that said you may add fuel after practice, you may add fuel after qualifying. So you don't have to start the race full of fuel. And if I burn off 8 gallons of fuel, well, that's 50 pounds of weight I'm not carrying around. So there are crew chiefs that make the decision not to fill their cars to start the race. This makes it difficult for you and I to broadcast and tell you where people are at because we don't know where their fuel load is. But in order to do the strategy that Jonathan and Ryan did, they had to fill themselves up and put themselves in position. A little bit of a drawback for that first run, but it sets them up. You've got to be playing chess and be set up for the second or the third move, and that's what put them in position.
Let's talk about the moves, though, because, Jeff, that was how they got in the mix. Then the mix was so good. Blaney, Hamlin, Byron. Hamlin controlling the race. Blaney runs him down, gets parked, and Byron comes rolling around the outside. This 3-car battle was just as good as it gets at Nashville.
Oh, my gosh, this is so good. And the intensity of it is you have to put yourself in the driver's seats right now. This is for the race win in their heads. This isn't just for the race lead. This is for the win, because if I can control this race, I can win it. And right here, I think Blaney, with the fastest car, has messed this thing up. Like, he has not made this pass. Hamlin is now under attack. Hamlin was struggling a little bit right now. And here comes the 24, and they're going to take control of this race. But Williams just couldn't get him clear. And right there, you can see Williams got good forward momentum, but he just can't clear Hamlin. And now they get side by side. And Blaney, his intensity level is through the roof. I'm racing for the lead, and now I'm running third. How do I get it back? And this exchange, it's in today's NASCAR, this, with many, many laps to go, in the driver's brains, the crew chief's brains, the spotter's brains, is for the win. And it's a 3-wide move. Like, you got to get aggressive. You got to make things happen. And this was just so much fun to watch.
It's crazy because these guys aren't driving with hammers. They are driving with scalpels. I mean, right there, the entry into one, the 12 car is dead straight, dirty tires after being on the apron, rolls in there, doesn't overdrive. It's so easy to overcook that thing and slide up and wreck them all. And then right here, game over. Best car now has the lead, and it was crystal clear. He runs 1 and 2 and gets like 5 car lengths. And I'm like, okay, the 12 is just super dangerous when he got out front. I think dangerous is what I would say about the 12 car now. Look, it's easy to say we have 5 DNFs. I'm trying to think what Blaney said last night about it. He called it like it wasn't a struggle. He had a great term about the year, like kind of the ups and downs or whatever. I forgot the word he used, but basically I thought it was very captivating of how they see it. But now that he has that win, now he's like kind of locked in. So now it doesn't make the DNFs go away, but it kind of, what's the winning fixes about everything. It also takes a few blemishes off the scorecard. So that now Team Penske is in. Koholi, even their satellite team of the 21 car is in. I mean, there's just a lot of positives that trickle out from this. They're just focused ahead now. Now it's all about playoff points. Think about this right here from Racing Insights. Blaney failed to win the first 11 races in which he led 100-plus laps in his career. He's now won 4 of the last 5. Back to kind of the Hocevar thing. This is the maturity we're talking about, right? Like Blaney is still the fiery guy on the radio, and I think he has to be. I don't think he can hold it in. I think he has to say it. God bless him. Makes for some great television. But I don't think it slows him down. Like, I think that's just his personality. I've learned, let him vent, let him drive.
It's like a pop-off valve. As
Let
it
the
builds
pressure
up
off.
inside of him, lets him get it off, focus back on what he's doing. But, you know, we all questioned last week with Penske having speed all year long. And then the Coke 600, they were kind of irrelevant. They weren't there. And we questioned where that was. What a great way to kind of come back and say that was a data point that wasn't off. And they all had speed, but Blaney did what Blaney's been doing. And I feel like there's been 5 or 6 races that they've been the fastest car and not been able to execute their way through. I think back to, 2 engine failures of the 5 DNFs, and Doug and those guys understand what's going on there. They had a DNF, I think, at Vegas with a car that they blew a tire from being aggressive on air pressures and practice and didn't make it all the way through. So I think, to your point, I think this puts a little calm to that program and lets them focus forward. They've had pit crew issues. You look at Darlington, they lost 19 positions on pit road, still drove to the lead and didn't end up capitalizing on that one. But they've kind of solidified the pit crew and put themselves in a position where I feel like this team's in a good place to move forward.
Made some changes, some uncomfortable changes, right? That pit crew's been with Blaney a long time. We're not going to go player by player, but made some changes there with some people that were considered very tight, very friends, part of a championship crew, right? It's hard to make those changes because you just want it to be the same group. I've had to make the changes. Todd, you've made those changes. They can be very, very difficult, but they're paying off.
Yeah, definitely are.
There is a price to be paid, though, for the failures. I mean, you look, they have 8 playoff points. And Kyle
Playoff
Larson,
points beating how they're going to be seeded into the playoffs, right? That bucket that accumulates for the playoffs.
Kyle Larson sitting there with 23. And so we've seen, as the playoffs get going, we've seen the lack of those points being where you need them in the playoffs. They come back and bite you. These guys, you miss around by 1 or 2 points. So don't dismiss by any means because they won this race that it doesn't matter, because it does. It matters. What you do in the regular season 100% matters. So yes, we've all said it. We all believe that they can win a ton of races and they are a very dangerous team. But with the way the point system works, win and you're in, that's a real thing. But you still pay the price for lack of success during the regular season, lack of playoff points, lack of stage points. You still pay the price and you're still rewarded for getting them. So they have ground to make up. Do not think that because they won this race, they have a clear path to winning a championship. They are at a deficit. They have room to make it up. They have time to make it up, but it can cost you.
Well, the focus on the bubble, we're looking at the points right now, like Buescher, Kyle Busch above 8 and 2, Priest 2 out, Hocevar big move 4 out, Stenhouse falls below, lost 16 to the cut line with the wreck that he was in, the Dinger, McDowell. I mean, we're in for a great summer, and I say that because the Priest, Hocevar, Stenhouse, Allmendinger are running very, very good, right? They're giving Eric Jones even all the way back in 24th is 32 below, but had a great run. Ended up 7th after running 5th at the end of stage 2. Hey, D'Lo, do we have NASCAR Insights rankings? Have you seen those things yet? I'm assuming that the 24 has to be number 1 on restarts. He was number 1 on restarts about 2/3 of the way through the race when I was checking the live rankings. So I think he was number 1. And I want to talk about William Byron and the restart machine he was at Nashville. I don't know. I think I know why he chose the inside. Stats would say to choose the inside in row 2. He did it on the final restart. I wish he would have chose the outside because we're on board here with Byron. Time and time again, Jeff. This right here. Watch this right here. He makes these guys in front of him look super slow.
Yeah, this is a move that I believe that Kyle Busch kind of reinvented the way you restart in NASCAR. He was the guy that many years ago was willing to get himself 3 wide, put himself in position on restarts that most people weren't willing to do it, and then everybody's like, hey, I got to do it too. And the timing of it, like, you remember, you can't make a pass until you get to the start-finish line. The timing of these moves where you pop somebody on the outside and now, you're hoping the racetrack has enough grip up there and you're trying to take away their momentum, especially on corner exit. 3 wide middle is not where you want to be unless you have forward momentum going there. If you get put 3 wide middle because the guy on the outside jumped you and now he's going forward, that's never good for you. So, well, I say never, most times not. And William Byron was willing to put people in that situation. And you have to do these things. These are the way restarts are wild in NASCAR. I don't care if it's trucks, Xfinity, Cup. you have to be willing to be super aggressive to make these moves.
So we're looking at right here. It looks like Ross Chastain, Stenhouse. So Byron was third on the restart on the NASCAR Insight. So Ross Chastain, no surprise. He's always very good when it comes to restarts. A little bit of an eye chart here with all these colors, but looking at the far right column is the one I really care about. So Byron good, as we said, going 3 wide time and time again. Look, we didn't talk about this one ahead of time. Let's talk about Denny Hamlin. Just another quiet, really good performance, right, Rand? I love this stat. I'm going to give Adam Alexander. Youngest full-time driver, Carson Hocevar. Oldest full-time driver, Denny Hamlin, second and third. I think it's a magical time in NASCAR when that's the case. Hamlin, fastest lap, second week in a row, on baby watch. That's a lot of distraction. I think this is the most kind of off the radar great day for Denny Hamlin. Ran third, right? Joey Logano fourth, William Byron fifth, Bubba huge recovery in sixth, Jones seventh, Larson eighth. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I mean with a crazy eighth, and then Reddick and Bell after wrecking. Let's break that wreck down a little bit. Do we have any thoughts on Denny? I mean, other than hey, are we not surprised? It just kind of felt like a blue collar Hamlin day, just a good day.
That he ran in the top 5 all day long. Top 3 seemed like all day long. Just started there or stayed there. Pit cycle's the only thing that separated that. But this is just, I mean, they're kind of in that groove right now. I think Denny's done a great job of it. If this plays out with cautions differently, I think we talk differently about Denny Hamlin. I think his shorter run speed was pretty good. He just couldn't hang on the deep runs with Blaney and work forward. But I think they're in a good place and really kind of working their way forward.
I will lose with short run speed every year, Jeff, or every race. Jeff knows my favorite quote. I taught him a long time ago. I said, you know what I always say? Kind of looked at me. I said, you know what's in every long run? A short run. So I'll take a short run speed car and get beat by the long run and just maybe the restarts come to me because I've been the other way. And if your car doesn't get going, it doesn't matter what you do. Like the driver can't drive I've heard this and I think this is I think it's Ross Chastain that said it and somebody said it to him. Maybe it was Harvick. You can't drive a slow race car fast. And that's usually when you make mistakes, right? You can drive a fast race car slow, but you can't drive a slow race car fast. You can't drive a car faster than it needs to be. You can maybe drive it a little faster than the next guy, but you can only make so much speed behind the wheel. You have to be sitting on a horse that will keep up kind of on its own. I'm a big believer. That debate always happens, is driver or car? And I say, yes, it's both. Now, I actually believe you have to have the car. And this may be a controversial statement. I think the sport is swinging where from the booth, I can see the driver's execution more than maybe I did pre-next gen. I felt like there was a big discrepancy in vehicle ability 10 years ago. Like there were some cars 10 years ago that I don't care. You could give them track position. They weren't going to win. They just weren't, right? Like the Hendrick Chevys or the Penske Fords or the Gibbs Toyotas that got unloaded pre-next gen. They were rocket ships and they were really hard to beat. Now I think the cars are so close that the driver can be the difference maker. Now he can be just as frustrated because he doesn't think he can make a difference. But I actually am seeing the opposite. I think that the guys behind the wheels, the stars of the sport, are the difference maker out the window. That's what I'm seeing.
Look, you say it all the time. They're surgeons. It's precision. And also at the same time, you watch Kyle Larson wreck all by himself. We saw Josh Berry leading a race, spin out all by himself. You at the same time that you have to be driving these race cars is about precision. The guys that consistently go fast, they're willing and able to put them on the edge, and you have to accept that they're going to wreck them sometimes. There's a long, Kyle Larson's a great conversation. Does he wreck too much? Would he be better off if he didn't wreck as much? Well, if he didn't wreck as much, he wouldn't be as fast. This is an age-old conversation in NASCAR too, but there is no question that driver talent makes a difference. And anyone that thinks that in today's NASCAR or in yesterday's NASCAR or in the beginning of NASCAR, driver didn't matter, they're wrong. Drivers have always mattered and cars have always mattered. They've always both mattered. And our sport evolves and changes. And the percentage of driver matters has changed and it will continue to change. Same with the car. But if anyone that thinks the drivers don't make a difference, they're not paying very much attention.
I think this Gen 7 car is made it, that edge is sharper of trying to find speed, where we used to have a bigger window and you kind of had indications with all the side force we had in the old cars. And this one seems like it's razor edge. And the guys that are good are able to run up on that. You brought it up on the broadcast. I mean, we saw Blaney just about wreck out there. I mean, he had a big moment. And it's where and that's why Kyle Larson leads the series, seems like, in DNFs yearly, because he's making speed. And this car has made it where, to your point, the driver talent and ability to run on that edge, it's showcased with this car.
Yeah, so the old car, as it turned, right, heading straight's good. As it starts to turn, call it skew. It's kind of like a World of Outlaw wing. As it turns, it just plants the car more and more and more and more and more. So as you go into a spin, it actually grips the back of the car up where you go slower. You don't want to be sideways, but it kind of saves the car, right? This car with the diffuser, straight is great. And as soon as you start to turn the car, the air shuts off to the diffuser and it goes from good to wrecked. I mean, that's basically what happens. And right here, I mean, you see it, right? Gets up behind the 54, loses the back of the car. That was early for Larson, and then he recovered. So that's kind of the difference. I have one that came from social, and I'm going to talk about this. A lot's been made of Hocevar. We've talked it probably to death right here. Then we see Jones and Bell. Similar. Not the same wreck, but a similar wreck on the restart. I see a clear difference here, but I have a very strong opinion. Todd's shaking his head. I love when Todd.
Not the same.
Right here. Restart. On board with Jones. Gets left. Bell comes down, 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 down. Finally, there's no more down. Bell goes around. Todd, you're animated. Jump in.
Yeah, I mean, he's inside. The spotter's calling inside at this point. When the contact's made, it's right front fender to left rear quarter panel. He's made, and this is how aggressive you have to be on restarts. We just showed the who's winning on restarts, right? But right here, he's a foot and a half inside the 20 car. And I know the 20 car is wanting to get back to the bottom. And like Jeff talked about, being stuck in the middle of 3 wide is a negative. You're going to be backwards. So, Christopher Bell's trying to push his way back down, knows he's got a Toyota teammate kind of behind him, but I don't see Eric Jones doing anything but wrapping the yellow line here, and Christopher Jones wrecks off of him.
And so, look, the fan can lose their mind because I'm the exact opposite on this as I was the Hocevar one. Basically, I'm like, Jones is like, I'm here, buddy. I am not moving. Legacy Motor Club is getting better. I'm the guy. I'm the damn jockey driving this horse. And I don't care if you're a Toyota teammate. I don't care if you're Christopher Bell. I have worked inches to the inside, and I agree with you, Todd. A foot and a half, he's up to the fuel, and it's you. At some point, you have to stand your ground. And I know that sounds crazy because I just said what I said about Hocevar, but I don't think they're the same. One was the rear bumper, and I think he could have cut Stenhouse a break without a big penalty either. Right? I think Hocevar could easily let him in line and not really slow down a whole lot. Right? For Jones on that restart, if he kind of lets the 20 in, it stacks the bottom up. We don't know what happens. I actually like Jones standing his ground here. I just do. I like it. Now I like Bell too going, no, buddy, I'm going to take you to I'm going to test your metal. I'm going to squeeze you down and squeeze you. And you know how he did it? Like, I think he didn't just turn left. He banged him once and banged him twice. He's like, hey, man, I'm still coming down. It was like a slow motion 140 mile an hour restart wreck, which spun Bell into the wall, which, by the way, then I'm like, oh, Bell's done. He's done. He drives up and finishes 10th. At one point, I told our producer, Marv, I'm like, Marv, show the replay again because I think the fans forget that this guy hit the wall. Crazy.
Yeah, I was watching with a group of people, and I'm like, how is he still running that well? Yeah, that was a great job by him and his team not quitting. I mean, honestly, because I thought they were done. And look, we're all in agreement on this wreck. There's not a whole lot left to say when a guy gets underneath you and you're like, I'm just coming, I'm coming down. I'm not going to let you have the spot. Whatever happens at that point happens.
Looking at the line graph of Christopher Bell, great day. You see him start. Remember, left to right is the race, top to bottom of the positions. You're leading if you're at the top. You're basically last year if you're at the bottom. Right here, around lap 120, the wreck, he gets shipped around and then just does a really nice job of recovering. And I think you see kind of where his speed flattens out. And I'm sure the wreck hurt the car, right? I'm going to make a very general statement here. He looks like a 5th place car pre-wreck. He looks like a 10th place car post-wreck, right? He didn't wreck it better. But a great job by the 20 car, keeping the thing together and rolling. Todd, we've talked about a lot. What am I missing, right? You always seem to have a great thing from pit road. Was there anything that jumped out from Nashville? Surprising? I mean, for me, fuel mileage we knew was going to be key. Tires didn't really fall off. New left side tire had a little bit more grip, but I didn't see anything that jumped off the page different from Nashville.
No, I thought this one was pretty straightforward. The beast, and we touched on it earlier. I feel like fuel load is something that probably our fan base doesn't understand how they start the race and really where they got to. And you look at a race and say there's 400 miles to run. You kind of had that fuel mileage graph.
Yeah, man, we got a burn bar. We could check their miles per gallon now through AI. So we're trying to unveil it a little bit because it is very complicated.
And I think one of the things it's Jonathan and I were talking about this earlier, but you look at it and at times it shows 4.5. It shows other guys at 4.7. Well, to the average viewer, 0.2 of a mile a gallon, what's that matter? Well, 0.2 of a mile a gallon on 20 gallons is going to end up being 4 miles. So that's 3 laps.
2 laps at Michigan. 2 laps this week at Michigan if you can get there.
Right. So those are the pieces that understanding that tenths matter and understanding that where the fuel load started. That's something that when you look through the pit stops, you see some 11-second pit stops, but there are times that guys have to reset and get themselves a fuel load. So those are all the pieces. I love the burn bar. We probably need to get a little bit more, educated on those pieces because understanding fuel loads and where they are with 9-second pit stops, we can't be full. So we have to decide when we're waiting to get fuel in these cars. And that's why I brought up, I think Hassler was one of the few cars that was full to start the race. I feel like a lot of guys weren't. And you have the opportunity of the 35 or whatever laps, 40 laps of practice you run, whatever fuel you burn off, you don't have to put back in your car. So it's a whole different strategy and how this all plays out. But cool to see it show some mileage stuff there and from the AI piece, but understanding tenths matter for our viewers.
Yeah, tenths definitely matter. You're watching NASCAR Inside the Race live. I bring that up because we are going to have NASCAR Inside the Race bracket show in a few weeks, where every week we're going to also break down the in-race tournament that will be hosted in the Turner TNT races. It's a head-to-head tournament. This is how it works. We're going to put 32 drivers in. We're going to, after week 1 in Atlanta, we're going to go from 32 to 16, 16 to 8. Everybody gets how brackets work, just like the NCAA tournament. Well, the eligible drivers were set this week, and not a big shift, but a big one. A champ was on the bubble. Our man Brad Keselowski came in barely above. I think it was 19 points over 33rd coming in. He ended up leaving 21 points ahead. So this is the updated look for battle for the in-season tournament eligibility. So what this means is Brad K, Noah, Ty, Haley, they're in. SVG, Cole Custer, Riley, they're out. Now what will happen is the 32 drivers will be set. Let's go back, D-Lo. Let's go back to the full season points because that'll show me all the drivers. In playoffs, is fine because everybody that's won is already in the top 32. So you can give me one. It's not apples to oranges, but this will give me the whole list. So all 32 drivers in the top 32 now over the next handful of weeks, your best finish will seed you. So if you win a race, you're going to be a 1 seed. There could, in theory, be 3 1 seeds, right? Because we have 3 races left. So Larson, Bell, Hamlin, Byron, we know all the winners. Elliott, Reddick, Wallace, right? Let's talk about elbows. But Priest, Hocevar, Stenhouse, the Dinger, McDowell, John Hunter's in the show, right? Gillen, Jones, Zane Smith, Dylan, Gibbs, Suarez. And I bring this up because round 1 is Atlanta. So we're going to seed them for the next 3 races. Come up with this bracket. Once we have the bracket, we're going to share it. The week leading into Atlanta, look out for NASCAR Inside the Race bracket show, where we're going to explain how the playoffs work. But more importantly, we have this awesome head-to-head tool, and we are going to break down every matchup head-to-head on where we think the odds makers have them. We're not going to shy away from odds. This is going to be a betting conversation, right? Because the odds are going to say who the favorite is. I'm going to let you wager on it. I'm going to look at the odds, and then I'm going to look at the stats for Atlanta, and I'm going to tell you whether I think the odds are right or wrong. I think it's just a great way mid-season to cheer your driver on against just one guy. He needs to outrun one guy to advance in the bracket, and at the end, that driver's going to get paid $1 million to win the bracket. Jeff, I think this is a cool idea. This is kind of like new racetracks and schedule changes. Look, if you don't like brackets, ignore it. Watch the race. It's okay. If you're looking for something else to kind of pull you in, I think this bracket head-to-head could be interesting. I don't know if everyone's going to be talking about it in Atlanta, but with a few upsets, we instantly will have some drivers where the bracket could make their season.
No question. And look, I'm on True TV for those 5 races with Larry McReynolds, and we're going to do an all broadcast just kind of focusing on this. And $1 million is real money. That's real money paid to the driver. And already, think about this, already in those 5 races, there's 2 road courses. Who is no longer in?
I know. I saw that.
So do you think for a moment that the 32 that are in don't look around and say, You damn right. SVG is not in it because you potentially could have had SVG matched up against a multi-time champion with 2 road courses in that bracket. He's not in it. That already changes who has a chance to win this bracket. And we're going to see this change and move. And the matchups are going to be fascinating. We don't really know the matchups yet. We know the 32, but the matchups are going to be determined over the next three weeks based on their best finishes. And we're going to have some extremely exciting matchups and something to watch within a race. And I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to add an element. Doesn't take away from the overall race at all. It doesn't take away from who's going to win this championship, how you're going to win it. Doesn't take away from any of that. And if you don't want to pay attention to it, you're not required to. But if you're looking for a little extra content, and I'm sure, Steve, and you're our resident expert, the gamblers are going to love it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that the bracket's great because we just had the races up. Pop the races back up again. Atlanta, a little bit of a wild card. Chicago Street Course, Sonoma. And then what I do love is I love how we finish because we finish the Monster at Dover. And then we go to just a unbelievable patience tester to go to Indianapolis. You better have your stuff dialed in. It's hard to get, strategy, everything. So the head-to-head for the $1 million will be, awarded at the Brickyard. So I think it's a great thing. Let's go back to the points for a minute. Guys, we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you guys are analysts. You studied up all the time. Who are you looking at? We're halfway through the regular season. We got 9 winners. Let's say SVG wins a road course. We're going to throw him in there. That gives us 10 winners from all the way down there in 33rd. Give me the circle, man, from Bowman, Bush. Maybe there's somebody I'm not thinking about below the cut line, Jeff or Todd, whoever's ready, jump in. Do you have one guy that you are focused on because you think the summer could be good or bad or a story that maybe we're not talking about?
Well, I'll go. There's a bunch of them, but there's so many compelling stories. But Kyle Busch.
I love that you brought him up because we give a kind of a award. Remember the Goodies Headache Award on MRN from years ago at the end of our prime broadcast? And everybody thought it should go to Stenhouse, and I agree. But my pick was Kyle Busch because I feel he's being very patient with this organization publicly. And I'm impressed because he could be losing his mind with some of the struggles they've had in practice and mechanical issues. Kyle Busch currently 2 above. Why are you focused on him, Jeff?
Well, I'm focused on him for multiple reasons. Number one, he just had a contract extension. Number two, he talked about Denny Hamlin and his speed that he still has at this time in his career. And that's confidence building. I've been there. I've done this. I can put myself in Kyle Busch's shoes. He hasn't exhibited that speed. And then we can talk about why, teams, whatever. But the truth of the matter is he hasn't had the success over the last 3 or 4 years that we're accustomed to seeing from Kyle Busch. And I don't care who you are. That is confidence breaking. And so Kyle Busch is trying to take this team, take RCR, take the fight to Joe Gibbs Racing, take the fight to Penske, take the fight to Hendrick. And it's hard. It's difficult. And he's doing it in a way that instead of fighting for a championship at the moment, he's fighting to see if he can contend for a championship. And emotionally, that's draining. Emotionally, that's difficult. And this is a brutal sport. This sport will you love it, and at the same time, it'll rip your heart out. And so we're watching Kyle Busch try to take the RCR, try to take himself back to where they both have been. And with the pressure of just making the playoffs. And I just think that I love it as a fan and I hate it as a competitor because I know how difficult it is. I know how emotionally draining it can be, but that's what sports are. And so Kyle Busch, to me, and that story of RCR, that's going to be compelling through these summer months.
Todd, you got one that jumps off the page?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I mean, I'm like Jeff. There's 4 or 5 that I could talk about, but AJ Allmendinger, I'm going to stay welcome.
Oh, you took my guy. That's the one I had circled. Let me hear it.
You look at it, and they have continued to manufacture points as they've needed to. Got themselves close to the cut line. They're sitting there 20th, 7 below the cut line with 4 road course. We talk about SVG. Let's not forget that AJ is also a pretty darn accomplished road course racer. We've got 4 road course races coming up. they've done good things. I mean, even this weekend, they had the penalty, something they didn't like with a splitter during practice. They had to do a pass through, kind of recovered, just blue collared the day. But I feel like this team at Colleague has done a really good job with AJ back there, bringing some seasoned kind of veteran experience back. I think AJ's done a good job, and I think there's a lot in the summer to look forward to that eases the stress of the cut line for these guys, because there's opportunities to win several races
and a lot of points available. So Dinger's that guy's scary enough that if they make a decision to just score points at the road courses, and what I mean by that is people pit before the stage. I'm not going to get all the details, but it's a real conscious decision for points. He may not win a road course if they choose to call it that way, but he could leave with maybe the most points. He'd score the most points of anyone, right? Because he's good enough in that final stage, Todd. My point is to try to win stage 1, win stage 2, know he's going to start 22nd in the final stage and still drive it up into the top 8 or something and have just a monster points day. So I'll add one more because you took my guy Dinger, which is a great pick, but I'm just going to say Spire in general. We talked about Hocevar, who's 18th. McDowell in 21st. They're qualifying well. They're scoring a lot of points. They're running very, very good. I know Haley's a little bit slower back down there in 29th. So I'm 73 back. I'm thinking it's a win for Haley once you get that far out. I think that. I'll add one more name to this real quick. 27th in points, Ty Gibbs. I think that for this team, I'm just waiting. It's not about a win or it's this. He's over 100 starts now. The 19 has shown it, right? Back-to-back polls. I feel like he's kind of on the scene now for the Joe Gibbs Racing organization. The next thing is, can they get some consistency, some love around Ty Gibbs for whatever this young man's looking for in the car? Just some positives. Look, he has a long career ahead of him. The place isn't on fire, but I think you just don't want to keep checking weeks off without learning and growing and trying to improve. So I think Ty Gibbs is a driver I'm going to look at for the summer. Let's circle around where it all started. It was Blaney. Yeah, go ahead. Jump in.
So Chase Elliott, no race wins, no stage wins.
That is crazy. Great in points at plus 153, and that's Chase in general. Finished 15th. He's still the only driver in the field to not finish outside the top 20. And I think you can look at that at glass half full or glass empty. It depends on which side you are at the Chase Elliott fan base, right? They're okay. They're above probably. Okay is probably a kick in the shorts. They're above okay. They're just not. I haven't seen what Blaney had this week out of the 9 car.
I mean, look, they don't, right? But if the playoffs started today, where is he seated? We talked about Blaney and the deficit that he is potentially going to start the playoffs with. Well, look at the deficit that Chase Elliott would start the playoffs with.
Yeah.
And you just, Chase is a very talented driver. Allen is a very talented crew chief. I would have either one of them on my race team in a second. But there is something lacking there. They have got to find some speed if they're going to contend for a championship. And there's no question about the talent of that team, but the success level that we expect from Hendrick Motorsports and we expect from those two, for whatever reason, and I think they can get there, but they're going to have to find a way to find some speed and some results.
And you look at it, you look at the overall assessment of what NASCAR Insights has got: 6th on pit crew rating, 3rd on passing, 3rd on defense, 7th on speed. The deficit for Chase Elliott, 17th on restarts. And I think that has to go to, we talked about Carson Hocevar and how controversial he is, but people making that happen. Ross Chastain last week, he's good on restarts. You've got to be able to put yourself there. I think that's something that Chafe's got to focus on.
That's a great, that we talk about inside the race. That right there is awesome. I mean, that right there is, if you would have told me that they ranked that without looking at them, I would have been surprised. And so the speed's really not way off, right? The pit crew's not way off. They just, but in today's NASCAR, because it's so awesomely competitive, you got to do it all well. And it's easier said than done, but you got to find, if you're going to contend for a championship, you got to do it all well.
Monster day for Ryan Blaney. None of us are surprised. I mean, they've really had the speed. I think I'm surprised he's the last Penske car to win. That's the biggest surprise that he won the race. I mean, they just, led 139 laps, but just had raw speed. And we talk about, we hear drivers talk about, man, I was in the first group and I was this and I was that and I was this. And those are all real. I'm not making they're not excuses. They're facts. But those are all facts that Ryan Blaney and this team overcame, right? A really tough Coca-Cola 600. They could work their way out of the first group. They don't get qualifying well. They have a nice strategic call in the first stage to kind of flip the day, to get to the front, went on to win the race. It was great. It was great. We're off to Michigan. I call this NASCAR's final exam. You better go there and it all better work. You better have it all. You better have mileage. You better have power. You better have aero. You better have downforce. You better have some nerve because it's going to be plus 200 miles an hour. You're going to have the great strategy. It has a little bit of everything that it takes to run good at Michigan. So it's a great time in the year. Guys, I appreciate you joining me. Blaney, big winner this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he's in a good position heading into Michigan. Keep in mind, and people don't realize this, but for the teams, they always did. There's a manufacturer trophy that's pretty prestigious for these three OEMs, and going there and bringing that home, it's a big deal.
No, I love this. I love this time of year, Steve, because the playoffs are looming, the pressure is mounting, and in sports, pressure is fun to watch. And it is starting to ramp up. It's getting ready to get hot. Drivers are getting frustrated. Teams are getting frustrated. This is a great time of year because it's all getting ready to happen right in front of us.
You mentioned the trophy. Well, Ford has won 9 of the last 10 races at Michigan. So we'll see if the Ford dominance continues, and it's going to be exciting. Listen, to the fans that have joined us live on the Monday morning, we really appreciate it. We're going to be live for sure next week on Monday. We've moved to Monday because our friends at Prime, which I'm a part of that broadcast, has that huge post-race footprint. We love that the broadcast partner is putting that big post-race out, so we've shifted to Monday. We appreciate you taking your Monday morning and joining us here on YouTube. Todd and Burton, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoyed it.
A great week. This has been NASCAR Inside the Race live, the post-Nashville edition. If you're watching on YouTube, we really appreciate it. If you're listening to the podcast, we love you guys as well. Rate, review, subscribe. Give us some feedback always on demand wherever you listen to your podcast. And like I said, join us live. Jump in the chat. Debate with other fans. Ask us a question. We want this to be interactive. It is a great time. It's been great to break down. Congratulations to Ryan Blaney. We got a great summer ahead. Appreciate you all tuning in.